Okay, so one revision. Oh, it doesn't have, oh. Okay. All right, anything else from anyone else? Your notes look great. Greatly appreciated. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 13th minutes as submitted with the noted correction.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the meeting minutes are accepted. Correction. Our next item, we have two public hearings, two buildings to be demolished that are within historic districts. So our first one is 137 South Elm, the garage that goes with that house. We have the information from the city. And also have the a bit of information here, and then Joel was able to bring up the
Yes.
National Register nomination form. It's a Central West one.
Yep, sure.
There you go. And this building, the garage of this home is not mentioned one way or another. Typically, it would be mentioned one way or another. Anyway,
And we have the building application then for him.
Yeah, the only thing I found on it, I did find the original building permit for the house in 1909, which I thought was interesting because which is rare, it lists the architect of the house. I thought the homeowners, if they didn't know about that, might be interested to see that.
Yeah.
I did go through building permits all the way up through 1937 or 38 and didn't find anything for a garage being built there. I stopped at after going through 1938 and didn't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, my staff report mentions that. I didn't find much anything, yeah.
all right.
Provide some pictures. There is the contractor
Yes.
is here.
Okay.
Any questions?
All right. Does anybody have any other questions or anything on this one?
Yeah, I'd just be curious to know the purpose of the demolition. Is it to make way for another building or?
Driveway. The homeowner would like to repave the driveway and, the garage is derelict in a way regardless, so we'll move that and then he can go and get the driveway paved.
Is he gonna build another garage?
I don't believe so.
It's kind of small back there.
Yeah, I think it's 14 by 10.
And the yard, I mean, the yard in general, like they could replace it with something similar, but
I believe theirs is like more shotgun style where it's pretty narrow.
Yeah, that's
but
what
it
I
goes
was
back a little bit.
take up
but
the
yeah, I
whole
don't think they're
backyard.
planning on doing it.
Okay. All right, just a matter of. It's a little small and, all right. Any other questions for this one? All right, this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone who would, from the public, who would like to speak on 137 South Elm Avenue or
Yeah,
has any questions?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to speak in this matter, then you need to use the raise hand feature.
All right. I think we're good then. Can we have a motion for 137 South Elm Avenue?
I'll make a motion to approve the demolition request for the garage attachment for the garage structure at 137 South Elm Avenue.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the demolition request for 137 South Elm Avenue, the garage only, been approved. Our next one then is 115 Orchard Avenue. We also have the National Register form 115 Orchard. And this property happens to be mentioned. Well, some sort of outbuilding is mentioned as contributing
Yeah,
resource.
it looks like carriage house slash gazebo, and then when you look at contributing, the contributing is before the slash, so to me, it looks like.
Yeah,
It looks like the ones before the slash are contributing, which would be the carriage house. And then the gazebo would be non-contributing.
right. Now, the question would be, when was this?
No, I couldn't find anything. The house was built 1923. I went back and looked, I didn't find any building permit. Again, went all the way up into the 1930s and found no building permit for a carriage house or garage. And then I looked at, building permit started in 1908. So I went and looked at the, property tax assessments for that lot to see if there was an improvement assessed, at least before the house was built, and there was nothing. So when the Burtons bought the property, it was listed as assessed as an empty lot with no improvement on it. That block of Webster Park was at some point I think in the late 1800s was re-subdivided. That's, if you look at the property description of the house, it's block K, lot 11, but it was originally blocks A through C and L through N and part of K. So at some point that was reorganized, and the house, it would be on Rosemont. The second house in was built in the 1890s, and its back lot abuts with the back lot of this one. And I thought perhaps maybe it was originally part of that house, but I couldn't find anything really connecting. That's just a guess. That's the only thing I could think of.
What is the significance of it being a contributing? Is it,
So
does
usually,
it have a special protection then or anything?
yeah, so when you have a historic district, you look at all the buildings and properties and whatnot that are there. And you decide which ones make this district what it was historically, what contributes to the character and that sort of thing. So it would usually be most anything from the time period that you're using. And typically it needs to be in a reasonable state compared to what it was, have historic integrity. So this building was considered to have historic integrity. Whether or not they found out when it was built, they don't say. So they just looked at it as it contributes, which, it would be nice to know when was it built. Because often you can say things are non-contributing. You can say things are actually a detriment to the district as well. And so, we would have a few of those. If anyone can think of that here in Webster, there's a few places built in historic districts that definitely are not adding to the district. But for the most part, they seem to have put contributing and non-contributing, and it just seems to be what probably looked old.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about the building permit for the house, and that year there was a section that they would have on the building permit for any existing structures that were already there, and it's blank.
It
So,
wasn't there before.
yeah, it's kind of odd to try to, and then I couldn't find any building permit for it after it was built, going all the way into the mid 1930s. And just looking at the fixtures that were inside, I couldn't imagine it being built any later than that, unless they took fixtures from somewhere and put it in. But yeah, and again, the person who owned that lot the year before, it was assessed as an empty lot with no structures on it, no improvement on it.
And we've got the historic buildings inventory sheet. And it does note that It does note the outbuildings. There's a two-story Frank Heritage house with a gable roof in the southwest corner of the lot.
Do we know what year was that historic district designated?
Let me check.
It
22?
Would say at the time.
it should say at the very beginning of the form.
Let me,
Yeah, that page that's over there.
move it over.
On the left,
Um,
go to that first page. Maybe. Go to page one. Is that the first page? Oh.
This is the first page, yeah.
Oh, okay, down, there, so it's see, November 12th, 2008 is when it was signed. So usually it just say two, that's what it's. About then.
Referring to this page.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what she was talking about.
This is a date 72 on the bottom of the page. What's for those?
Well, that would be a separate, those historic building inventories are a separate report
Thing.
from, it's a whole separate document than,
Yeah.
than this, the National Register document.
Yeah, but clearly it was 42. But not. Okay.
Well,
We don't have any pictures of the outside of this place.
Oh, right here are some pictures.
Yeah.
there's no
yeah,
pictures.
but there's
You-
pictures.
in this thing, there's this,
Oh.
in there, yeah, in there.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So it's not,
It's actually on the outside.
Good about.
the windows don't match the house, but. One could have been changed. Unfortunately. Oh. Anyway, okay, so
Like metal ladding and plaster.
it's definitely an older building. Just, that's just from what it looks like. It is an older building, but.
Architecturally, I don't see anything outstanding about it.
In some ways, you could say it is contributing, yet it's not, one of your more significant buildings. I assume, do we have, is anybody here? Are you, is anyone here
We
for
have-
this one?
Yeah, we do. have
I'm a
some
neighbor.
pictures.
Oh, you're a neighbor, okay.
So let's see if we have the.
And
homework.
they're not.
Oh,
they're
somebody's
not here
hands
for
raised.
this.
No.
No,
And then,
Hello, Aaron Seen.
It-
Oh, so sorry about that.
move it over to the new seat.
If you could unmute, I'm sorry, we accidentally clicked the mute thing
I'm
for
not
you.
sure how it works.
Sorry, can you?
There, yes, now we can hear you. Yes.
Sorry. I'm actually I'm the architect, for representing the clients, for the demolition, and I didn't know if you guys wanted to ask any questions or have any comments, so, as
So
far
what
as the project goes.
I would say we do have a few comments, or questions. So this is, as I assume you've heard our discussion here then.
Yes, I've been listening.
Okay, so it is listed as a contributing building in the district. And so is the intention to replace the garage?
That is the intention. As you guys as you know, as you said, it is contributing, but the history of when it was built, we're not sure. It is an old bill. I heard you guys say it is an old structure, and it's been neglected for many, many years. And I think you guys can see that in the photos. And it's not obviously it being old. It's not really built up to the standards of today. And I don't think it's been heated or cooled, so there's a lot of deterioration over time. The plumbing's all, and the electricity is knob and tube. It's vinyl sided right now, so it's undergone many years of transformation over the period of time. It's also it's built 3 feet over an easement in the back of the lot, utility easement, and the intention is, since the existing house doesn't have a garage, would be to demolish it and then build a larger garage, a larger structure, car garage only, not a carriage house, so that the new owners could park vehicles in the garage, but roughly located in the back of the lot in the same location, roughly.
And would it have, so do you know what kind of windows are in the garage? Are those vinyl windows too? Or are those?
No, I think well, the windows on the front, so that face the house, on that picture on the far right, I think they're wood windows. There's openings on the backside, and I think one on I can't remember which side, but that actually has been just covered over with siding. I think that's on the rear, the west elevation. There's a window in the garage that you can see is framed out and located, but it's not visible from the outside. So again, I don't know if that's where that was, but anyways, and you can see on the photos of the interior of the garage, at some point, someone had made an attempt to stabilize the structure, because I'm assuming that the sill plate, which sits at pretty much grade, had been rotted, and termites had probably come up into the studs and structures, and they took all the plaster and lath off up, 3 or 4 feet up from the foundation, and then cut those joists and then replaced them or sistered them and put in a new sill plate. And you guys can see that.
Yeah, it looks like they've been sistered.
Yes.
So would the intention be to build something that is conducive to going, a reminder of this building, since it is a contributing building, and rather than just a whole different thing and garage in the middle of the backyard, or
right. The intention is not to build a carriage house, but to build a garage. The guidelines of the neighborhood do spell out that any accessory building needs to match in character of the main house. So that would be the intention. Of course, modern garage with a little bit larger openings and larger vehicles. The new structures intended would be a little bit bigger than this, but as far as the scale of the height, really we're talking about matching. The intention would be to match the house and have it kind of seamlessly be part of the neighborhood. You can't, as you can see from the street view here, it's not really visible from the front here. You can get a glimpse of it from, if you go south down Orchard a little bit, but you can't really see it from here. You can see it from, that's where you can see it back.
and the neighbors see it well.
That's my.
I mean, those houses see it quite well, right?
Quite well.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to build on it.
So, I guess this garage has a lot of windows, which is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that would be put into any design that, you know, that kind of thing, because it's not just a matter of, you know, match what you want to of the house kind of thing, you know. There's certain things that do make this little building sitting in the backyard where all the neighbors can see it, make it a pleasant little building.
Absolutely.
Right, so it is a 2-story building, so
Correct.
keeping some of those things rather than just a big blank wall of vinyl siding, you know, no one wants to see that, so at least most people don't, so.
Absolutely agree 100% with that.
And
Okay.
I believe any plans will have to go to ARB.
Yeah, that is for the ARB, that's not for me, but yet still, that is consideration, so.
It is, and it is something that comes up frequently in the ARB that people are proposing buildings with entire blank elevations of nothing but siding. And it's not appropriate, and it certainly wouldn't be appropriate in the historic district. So I think everybody would appreciate consideration of the context and the history in any new design.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are some really good published guidelines for this historic district. So I think the intention would be, you know, as you guys are, you know, suggesting to follow those. And then, you know, we want to create a structure that would be worthy of the existing house too, which is a rather beautiful house that contributes obviously to the neighborhood. So absolutely.
I'm sorry, something just popped in my head and it popped out my mouth. I'm sorry, I just didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Just a quick question. Do you happen to know what kind of siding is underneath the vinyl?
I don't. You can kind of, if you go back to the pictures, Joel, you can kind of see, I don't know if that's,
That's just the sheathing.
yeah, if that's the sheathing or if that's an actual siding that was part, I think it is the sheathing, because you can kind of see the wrap that they put underneath when they re-sided it in vinyl. So I'm not sure if that's an indication of what's.
Yeah, I just be
What it was sided
curious to know what the original material was, so perhaps it could be matched in a new design.
Yeah. Again,
So-
I would submit this because it's been put to me to make sure the purview is that would be something they would have to definitely bring up to ARB.
So, and I don't actually know. So as a common thing for demolishing a building in a historic district that is a contributing feature, people often are required to do things in places. I don't know if we can we require them to do anything? I don't know. I mean, that's the
That's
that is the norm.
yeah.
That's the norm, way to do
Public
it.
hearing?
Or
Like a public hearing?
No, I mean,
or the
their house is
demolition.
in a historic district, for us to say, okay, we have some mitigation of, we will let you tear it down if you do X, Y, and Z. So,
Yeah, so that was something I was trying to get brushed up on my on my purview in terms of what the powers are for HPC. I think that when it comes to public hearing on landmark, I think it says that you can, and I just had it up. You can approve, deny, or deny with approve,
In amended
deny,
form.
or approve an amended form for the proposed plan. But that also sounds like if they're submitting the plans as well to of sufficient detail.
so we could interpret approve in an amended form as approved with some sort of conditions. That would mean that to me. don't
I
think we
would
could
say
argue
that
I'm not saying we have a condition, but I was just wondering, we do have that, we could say something that needs you know, we want to see some windows on this building when it comes to ARB. We don't want it,
Yeah,
you know, just because someone says it here does not mean they are going to do it when it gets to ARB. So
yeah.
we know that.
Unless we can codify it into an ordinance, but I don't think we don't write ordinances, we just get.
No, we can say it can be demolished. It says right there, approved in amended form. We can say it can be demolished if this, that, and the other.
And it
That
says
is
if the
amended.
applicant chooses not to accept the proposed amendment, the applicant is considered denied.
So we could approve it and say approved in amended form. Approve this demolition with this condition. I don't see why.
Yeah, you know, I honestly don't have that knowledge with me right now, but my reservation would be that maybe amended might mean that we would approve part of a demolition or instead of mentioning that.
So, right.
But
Right. So just to say again,
yeah,
it's extremely common. That is the way it is done.
Oh.
It's the country
then
that there are requirements for people. Very common, very, very common. And it's not just through the ARB, like it'd be very, you have to do this, that, and the other. It goes along with the guidelines and so forth, but to say, I mean, just saying you have to keep this much of the building. We could tell them they got to keep a wall.
Yeah.
That would be an amended
Yeah.
version.
okay.
So, you know, whatever it is. I'm not saying we're even gonna do it. Sure. That's fine.
No, that's fine.
That's Just, anyway.
Yeah.
Somebody else, anybody.
This is the
Question.
supporting period.
No, they're just.
Oh, yeah, we would rather-
Just here, but we don't have anything else to say. Anybody else? Anybody else? And who's a member? Okay, so it is open for public comment.
What I had intended to say has been changed in that I knew that there was a public notice in the front yard for the demolition, but I've only met the homeowners twice in the 6 months that they've owned the house, and I spoke only 15 minutes regarding the house. And suggested that they would like to put a pool in, and I was thinking that that's what they were going to replace this carriage house, which changed my attitude toward it in that specific location. I have to tell you that my property line is no further than 15 feet from that carriage house. What I would like you to add, if you're going to suggest the wood for the paneling and windows, another requirement that would be important to me, given that maybe I should read how it impacts me. Should I read what I wrote or?
You can say whatever you'd like to.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And ma'am, could you also please give us your name and address?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Susan Wood and I'm the owner of 237 Rosemont, which is a house adjacent to 115 Orchard. My 18-year life partner, Mark Middleman, owned and lived at 237 for 10 years and died suddenly in December of 2024. The house is currently in a trust and I will be the formal owner upon the completion of a probate estate. The house was Mark in my dream, and I will continue living there in love and honor of Mark. Okay, a disclosure. Before outlining why I have significant reservations as to tearing down the historic house garage, I wish to say that it gives me utterly no pleasure in opposing my future neighbors' desires. Since their purchase of the house, I have met them 2 times. I was under the impression that this would be a large pool. I have 3 reasons for opposition, and perhaps one of them no longer exists. But the historic is important to me. It'd be eligible on the historic register. I'm familiar with historic preservation requirements, as my house in Compton Heights underwent a multiple-year renovation that had to comply with regulations set forth by cultural resources. For historic tax credits, there were even tighter rules that you could not move an interior wall or window, much less remove an actual structure without invalidating the program's terms. The other loss to me is the green space and the privacy. Given that my house faces Rosemont and is situated in the upper northwest corner of the lot, I am the homeowner who will be most impacted by the proposed demolition. I have a very small backyard that is the only private area away from the view of either streets is a 12 by 12 patio, and it is 15 feet away from, you can't see, I could show you pictures myself. At the very back, I am talking 15 feet, 15 feet from the structure. It would be a loss of green space. I'm saying this from the standpoint of assuming that this was going to be a pool. If that's not the case, in understanding this now through the architect at very little notice, what I would say is I would very much appreciate that the structure be configured exactly the way it is, with the entrance to the garage being from the north end as I'm adjacent the south end, because I don't want to look at people's cars. I am perpendicular to that house. And if you want to enter from the carriage house, if you want to enter the garage, it should be in the same configuration that it is at this point. And then the other thing is, it may be entirely different, as I said, given that the pool is no longer in contention. I was concerned about water and runoff and the likelihood of egress into my property, because it's on a slope. I have water issues coming into the west wall. But the primary thing is you're sitting upon very precious space to me, in that, if you can tell, being on that corner, I have no backyard per se, except a small patio, and anywhere else you can see my life from Orchard or Rosemont. So I just would much prefer that the garage be configured with the entrance to the cars on the north end.
Pull up the air view.
Thank you.
Still there. Well, I don't understand why it's things here. All right, well, we'll just have to look at the look. News.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Would you like to see pictures that I have?
Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, there it is.
So this is.
There's 115.
This is the carriage.
Yeah, that's it there.
And your house is 235 or 237?
237. Would you like to see a?
Oh, and it looks like you're in the section as well. I'll represent.
Invert. There we go. It's located right there.
No.
Oh.
Oh, and these are.
Well, that's-
This is perfect.
I mean, I didn't see anything further stuff about the amendment.
Yes, well,
I believe we have to check it out. But I'll trust you.
I think there would be only so much. I mean, I wasn't really needing.
I gotta say,
Too expensive.
It does, I mean, I don't know.
My neighbor's pool is right here.
It has to be to ARB's, can have to be sent to you guys as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's not fun, huh? We didn't
Well,
die.
Sarah,
But this one's not there.
well, it's still not, just speaking to it was a.
All the other ones on the orchard, the pools are in the back of the houses, and hence they're not seen from
Yeah,
the.
mine's down on the side, I'm on Sunnyside,
Okay.
so in a smaller section. But it actually,
They had to buy property.
Aaron, thank you.
That was
Have more.
somebody else.
Once
To be within 2 feet of my yard. You know, it's just. It wasn't.
I really like the idea of approving it with the condition and we have plans to see what.
This was done for a driveway.
That's great. But a lot
Mark
easier.
and I were intending to do.
Well,
It does look like anything that gets submitted to ARB will have to get submitted to, in terms of exterior changes, will have to get submitted to HPC as well.
so maybe, what if we table it?
I was
And-
gonna say, if there's a question about
Mhm.
what you actually can and cannot say and do, why don't you table it and get that confirmed
Yeah.
first and then bring it back?
I think
I
that,
think
We don't
so.
have
Yeah.
to rush and make a decision
because
tonight if we're not.
gone is gone.
Yeah.
Right,
So, you
once
know,
it's demolished, the whole situation's over with, and then, and who knows what happens then, so, yeah, I think I would like to table it. So, we need a motion to table it, right? So,
Yeah, we
or do we have
couldn't
to,
figure it out to.
or do we, can we just take
Yeah, I think motion.
a motion?
That
Okay,
makes sense.
do we have a motion to table?
Motion to table this discussion until further
Okay.
information.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, one,
Might I, could I?
yes, sir.
Could I say something to the committee just to clarify? Um,
Yeah.
what, so I can, inform the clients, what is the reasoning again for the tabling of the motion?
Well, we are uncertain of what we
Uh-huh.
can say, how we can approve it and give you any conditions. I guess you could say we can amend what we approve, but we don't know exactly what that means legally. And so we would like to know that, if we can put conditions there, what those conditions can be, how much can they be, or whatever.
Okay,
So we want to know that before we vote, so that we vote knowing everything we need to know, and then we can let you know exactly what we're thinking about. You know,
Okay.
or,
so, okay.
and so it has been approved. I mean, the tabling has been approved to table the project until the next time has been approved. So we will take this up the next time after we do a little research into exactly what we can say and not say in regards to what you're doing.
So is that something we can do with the city attorney?
Yeah, so the next steps are going to be, sorry, I'm just talking because, but the next steps for me are going to be, I am going to review the code in terms of what the actual powers are for HPC. And then I'm also going to talk to the city attorney to make sure that whatever the board decides they would like to do, they can do, or to know what their limitations for what they can and can't say. So as the code reads currently, they can approve with conditions, or approve amended, or they can deny. And I think that we want to have further research into what that looks like, all those different options.
Yeah, what the nature of the amendments might be.
Oh, so we're gonna keep the public hearing open?
Yeah, so we're gonna keep the public hearing open. So the next time will be a public hearing.
I don't know, I wonder if anybody else wants to speak.
Yeah, I think that, is there anybody else?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes, does anyone else like to speak? Sorry. Correct.
I would just say, as a member of the public and resident of Webster Groves and a practicing attorney, to me, it suggests that an amendment would need the architect to submit an amended plan, but surely you'd like some guidance about what that needs to look like. So I think you guys are making the right call.
Well, thank you. Since you agreed with us, thank you very much.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Okay, and so we will then take up your project next time, once we have some confirmation on exactly what that means.
Okay,
Thank you for attending.
Yep, thank you.
Did you want to say something else?
Yeah, just like you still have a problem.
Oh, yeah, do you have any, did you?
I might open a can of worms. I don't know the date that the building, but I did know a little bit from the previous owner. Yes,
About what?
about the building, about the carriage house.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't original to the house, but it was from a long time ago, and I know the folklore of why it was built, but I'm not gonna go there. Or the history. Because I don't think it's pertinent to the, it's. I just know that she talked to me a little bit about that building.
Now I'm curious.
I am, and you know what was
Part of the
struck
thing.
me was sometimes folklore stories are just that, but sometimes they have granules of truth that might lead us on a research trail.
Oh, this was totally personal and a
Oh.
bad,
If you feel like it would be inappropriate, we understand. So if you want to.
she would have more information, but if what you're looking at is for historic reasons, I don't think that matters. If she has a bad marriage gone wrong and so now, but
I will
Not
also
part of
add
it.
that we've already tabled it.
Yeah, it's table.
so that's just personal and
Yeah.
so she could possibly tell you.
And who is she?
She has moved to
Oh,
Chicago.
so it's not
Previous owner.
Okay, it wasn't she. That's
Okay,
Oh, no,
just unclear who was.
no.
okay, all right, so that one we did. All right, it is
Okay.
tabled for now.
Under
Thanks.
research and.
We will work on that next time. Thank you very much.
No, I very much appreciate the intermediary status. So will I'll simply see the new notification on the ERA.
The notifications will all be the same, we just have.
So the,
One more.
I say thank you.
so the July meeting is.
Still on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, our next project.
Would you want to close public hearing?
Oh, yes,
I think we
Would
could
we
do
have
this,
without-
or motion to close it.
motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
No, that was only for leaving it open.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Oh.
We're leaving it up. We're gonna leave it open until the next time. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's right. Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
All right, so that's it.
All right, moving on then. New business. We have a demolition recommendation for 857 Clark Avenue. And this one is for a single family residence.
Thank you.
No, we're.
It's your plans. Saying that.
So it doesn't seem to me that anything really was found for this one.
No, I did find it was built in 1917, not 1920. There wasn't a building permit, which it just could be lost, but I was able to figure out from the warranty deed when they bought the property, it was an empty lot in 1917. And then they took out a deed of trust right after that, actually the same day, to borrow money to build the house. And the family, the Melman, Rudolph and Grace, they lived in it until the 1960s. Actually, their daughter lived in it after them, and she sold it in 1969. So they owned it for quite a long time.
That's a long time.
And also, the original street address was 8867 Clark. And that changed for some reason to 857 in 1969. Again, street numbers in Buster Groves.
Yeah. We'll like to change things like that for some reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, so, anybody have any questions or anything on this? Let's say, in the world of historic preservation.
What was the handwritten notes here?
Yeah, it's really.
That's the deed. Yeah, so this is the warranty deed. And then the same day they filed a deed of trust to borrow money on it. Yes.
That all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Get your building.
Got enough at the Right, so, okay, so those people lived there, they were
Yeah, it was.
some. Just some people who lived in the house.
Right, sure. And then after they sold it or their daughter sold it in 1969, it just went through a series of four owners to the current one who bought it in 1984.
Oh, okay. Okay. Floral houses, it's always too bad.
I know, everyone bites at us.
Everyone bites at us.
I found a
Wants to grow.
permit in 1923 when they added a sun porch and back porch, but yeah, let's see, it's like. Yeah, I couldn't find the original building. So what I did, I want that about.
Does anybody have any comments or anything?
Did I see right that it's only one bedroom? Did I see that somewhere?
I can pull up the same county from she lived in there. About 30 dollars.
A lot of demand for one bedroom houses.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, do you need, Sue, do you really want to know for sure?
No. I know I saw it somewhere, but I just thought, well, it's curiosity.
Yeah.
A lot of demand for those. Anyway, so.
Okay. Do we have a motion for 857 Clark?
I move we approve the demolition of the 857 Clark Avenue.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, the demolition request for 857 Clark Avenue has been approved. Our next one is 814 Edgar Road. This is also single family residence demolition. Okay, small.
It's a nice retaining.
Yeah.
That's not retaining wall.
That's
Oh,
your.
is that?
Right, let's see.
You go to the side. and look.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It says Edgar, but it is Ed, I speak from Edgar for it.
Yeah, I found this one, the permit was pulled in late 1941, so it was finished in 1942. And I actually found an ad with a photo of it, which is pretty rare.
Oh, man, can I get a copy of that?
Yeah.
I feel like mine.
It's been 89.
I did with a
8,900.
Oh, man, that's awesome. I love it.
the FHE.
Oh, man, that's so cool.
The last of the best built houses.
Right now.
5 large rooms.
Yeah, so it was purchased by a family in 1943 and they lived in it in 1950. And then the Meyer family purchased it, which I think there's a connection with you guys.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was like my great aunt.
Yeah, so they had purchased it around 1950. And so essentially the family has owned the house since then. They had a daughter who married into the Ott family, I think, which is the current owners.
Yep, yeah, that's right. I just want to get the big book of all my forebears permits and lack of permits when they made all these random additional rooms.
Don't want the trouble.
Which one?
Well, Notre Dame and David.
That's my dad. Dave,
Did you go to Notre Dame?
no,
I was gonna say.
there's a lot.
They're both doctors, yeah.
Okay.
They're not saying the same, they were. Didn't know.
You know, because when I first looked at this house, I thought,
South Bend, Indiana.
is there an addition on it? I
On the
guess,
front, yeah.
is this the front?
Yeah, this is looking at
Right,
Yeah,
that's
Edgar
what's not an
Ford.
addition.
So is this structure still back there?
Yeah.
This walkway with,
And then show the real picture.
So it looks like there was something put on the front, stuff like that.
See
To the
all
left
that
there,
is-
yeah.
No, to the right.
It says
I think to the-
breeze area.
Yeah, everything to the right is new, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, wait a minute, no.
No, it's
No,
not.
that's.
I thought it was,
No, that's-
well, it's the
that's a
side,
breeze,
but
that's
it's.
Yeah, so
That,
that part to the left, yeah, the
No.
garage might be new, that part to
Yeah.
the left also looks like what's added on.
All they did was change the garage.
Yeah, so like my understanding is this was added
Right,
and then this was added more recently,
Right.
but still like,
well, the breezeway thing was there.
Because the
originally.
breezeway was there and it looks like it was a one-car garage instead of the
And then
two.
change it to a two-car garage.
Not even that, it could have just been added as a breeze. But you're right, it's probably a car.
You could have breezeway and.
oh my god, that's so cool.
It looks like it was a one-car garage that was a different orientation.
It's got all the building from up to 1994 on.
Okay.
Look for it, so if you wanna.
That's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
What are you gonna do with it? Tear it down or?
Yeah, we got
Yeah,
our plans here.
That's the whole
Yeah.
thing or?
Yeah, we're gonna put a new house. We got wanna have a wraparound porch, 2
Like a
stories.
What's it has to.
historic like this. Well, we have kids and we tried in the beginning to put the second floor, but then we figure out we have a little part of basement. And we can put the second floor in addition, because it's just growing space. And also it has a track and it's separating from the house, so we have to redo it, so it's on the way, yes. Just to move it and build it.
We love crafts and those.
I appreciate the fact that you looked into adding one to the house.
Right.
Before you
Yeah,
decided
we
to go
tried
for the
to.
demolition.
Yeah.
This is how it's, we're hoping could be in a porch wraparound.
Yeah, they said like adding on to it was not very viable and there's asbestos in the roof and that kind of thing. It would have been
Just a little
just as
baby
expensive.
stuff. We don't wanna mess with asbestos.
Is it currently occupied?
Yeah, well.
You're living there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is on Edgar,
Hope you keep your trees.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we have this Edgar or road, on a road that's the porch. Just from this side, it's gonna be porch. Yeah, right here.
And into the front too. And it'll be moved over a little bit, so that's to the south, so it'll be a little bit moved to the south away from, because this is an kind of a.
There, yeah,
Easier.
there's one. there.
No, it's gonna be the same. Let me see, let me show that on a survey. So on a survey, we are here. And with additions, and we're gonna disorganize and move right here. And have more area over here. If you guys can see.
So it's gonna be moved farther away from the property.
The proper line is, I guess, 36.
Yeah.
But they'll allow 30, right?
So.
More space.
Yeah, like a little bit more.
A little bit
Only
more
two
space
stories.
and more organized.
So are there any other two-story homes in the neighborhood?
Yeah, the lady down this way, so
Community.
if you go up Edgar Court,
Yeah,
You can
also
see-
our neighbors.
yeah, she just knocked down or I don't know if they knocked it down, but they built another
So
one.
this one, the 2 ladies living here, 3 ladies.
It's 1.5 stories, yeah.
Yeah, but that's.
Which blends into the neighborhood nicely.
And if you go down to the street all the way down, there's a new house was granted and they added the bedrooms on both the garage, which is right here, the new door. See right here, they moved like a little bit last summer.
I said it out loud.
Ours is gonna be better than
Oh,
that.
good.
You don't like all that siding.
And the Mary's
Just-
was like on the end.
It's just not proportionate to the.
So one thing, yeah, you might want to think about it. and There are no two-story houses around, so keeping your house lower is better
Mhm.
for it blending into the neighborhood, hip roofs, stuff like that. And using materials that are actually in the neighborhood already is also a nice thing to do instead of bringing in all the new materials you see in every other new house around here. Those don't look historic. The new houses around here do not look historic. Just tell you right now, do not. The porch does not look historic in Webster Groves. That's a southern porch. So.
But again, that would be something
But
that
it's-
would still.
That's up to you,
It's okay.
what you wanna do. I'm just saying,
And it
you
would
know,
be
it's
sort of
nice to
that.
look around your neighborhood and see the materials and have your house blend in a little bit. That's up to you what you do once it's over with, but just look around and see what things look like. And don't look at the new houses.
Okay.
Also, too, I mean, after practicing architecture for many years, there's all the trendy designs that everybody has to have. And I can tell you, a few years ago, everybody had to have the gray siding with the Craftsman columns with the stone bases. And then that went out of fashion, and now it's what they call the modern farmhouse that's black and white. And those trendy styles, they go out, they look dated very fast.
Very, very
So
fast.
that's something to consider, to kind of, like Angela was saying, look around and maybe go for a more timeless look than one that goes, oh, you know, a look that you can say, okay, that one was built in this 5-year span. And then the next fashion came along.
There's
Because,
a reason they go and make.
Yeah. so, you know, that's just something to consider that,
Yeah,
you know, if you're
just
gonna
think about
be,
it.
So the black and white not gonna work.
well.
Well,
You know, it's like,
It's not black and white,
Isn't
that's
it so
the
funny,
problem,
though?
it's the styles
so
that
yeah,
are
it's just a
trendy.
trend right now.
Yeah, and you know, it sounds like y'all plan to live there for a long time. So you might want to keep that in mind, how you're gonna feel about that style 20 years from now.
Mm.
So it's just something to think about. I mean, those are personal decisions and they're your decisions, but it is something to consider. Cause it's so much money, especially these days, that, you know, you might want to just kind of think way far in the future and how you're gonna feel about that style.
and just to add is that any styling is solely your choice, and it will have to go in front of architectural review board in terms of the design and aesthetic.
You
of the
got your drawings,
neighborhood.
you probably already have it
So,
ready.
Yeah, you guys haven't said anything yet. So, but our purview today is the demolition, whether or not to approve the demolition,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, that's over.
All right, do we have any more questions? Do you guys have anything else you'd like to add either? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
All right, and do we have any more questions or anything like that? All right, do we have a motion for 814 Edgar Road?
It's also this person.
Oh, there's a person, oh, this is.
Oh, he's our GC.
Yes, okay, well, that's up to you if you, or him,
I
but
mean,
this
if he
isn't
wants
a
to talk, he
public
can talk.
hearing. So he wants to say. He can.
Yeah, if you'd like to speak online, you just need to do the raise hand feature.
That's it, that sounds like.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a motion for 814 Edgar Road? Move to approve the demolition permit for 814 Edgar Road. Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the demolition recommendation for 814 Edgar Road has been approved.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Old.
Send it to my dad and uncle, because, you know, this is my grandma right here, Marriott.
Oh, it's.
Yeah, it's got her, that's pretty interesting. And, my grandfather, who I never met.
So what are we gonna do next?
So your next steps
After your
will,
architect.
yeah, your next steps will be going into pulling permits for building phase, and that's when you submit your plans, go in front of ARB, and then you do your things. But we can talk about that after, offline.
Which would be next after you tear the house.
Okay. So this one?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's
next
like
after
it's
this
easy to build.
meeting.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Next after this meeting.
don't
Are
you
you
have to
good?
do a
Yeah,
demolition?
no,
permit?
Yeah, you have to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next step will be to get demolition.
I mean,
You don't get that from here? Where do you
Oh,
get
yeah,
it?
it's just, I'm just.
That's our-
I can email you,
Next time we're gonna get
about
something
this.
to our house.
I can follow up tomorrow.
Okay, that's cool, yeah, it's fine.
Now we already kind of populated. Finish
Well,
lane or something.
Right.
Well, I'm happy just to get this,
Yeah.
it's super cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Yep, thank you. Got your phone baby here.
Okay, we don't have any old business on our list, but is there any more information on the conservation districts or anything like that?
We do have the draft of the new comprehensive plan. It does specifically mention the creation and use of conservation overlay districts. And it's also contained in the implementation plan. And one of the proposed uses of overlay districts is to give people incentives to rehab their house rather than tear down. And then also, you know, the general use of conservation districts that we've discussed. So they are specifically mentioned in the plan, and we are going to wait until the city council approves the plan before we have our next meeting. Great.
Something else to add?
Yes.
Commissioner Delgado is, sorry.
Delicado.
Delicado was, if you want to speak to the appointment,
So it turns out there was already a liaison that appointed by the city, and I forgot the name, and I left my phone in my car, so I can't look it up in my email. But there's somebody that's with the Historical Society board that was appointed by the city. So I'm ex officio member now of the board. So I guess that's how that was resolved.
Okay, I'm curious as to why there's a liaison that we've never seen or heard of.
How are they gonna
Next to that.
You know, I can run out and get my phone and tell you who it is.
That's very curious.
I left my
to
phone
me.
out there too.
I can't believe I left my phone.
It was curious to Laura
We
too.
both
She was
did.
like, oh,
Right now, we're going, who?
yeah.
Yeah, so,
The mayor
and could you tell me again, who appointed this person that we've never seen or heard of?
I'm not supposed to be a member of our
I'm first right out front.
That's so strange.
So even when you find who it is, we will.
That, yes, I would be interested to know the source of that appointment and why we've never seen or heard of this person who's supposed to be a liaison. What are they
I don't
liaisoning
think that
with?
title was liaison.
Right,
I
and
think it's
I'm guessing that the board did it and I mean, let's.
so what I would
used to
say,
Like, I'm there all the time. We don't ever see the board too much.
yeah, what I would say is that,
I'd be
it
lame.
was the thing was, the matter was raised, with the city manager, thanks to Councilwoman Alexander. And then she said that it was, the mayor's choice to make, so I think the real point people have been, Councilwoman Alexander and the mayor, so I think she's pulling up the email to
Okay.
give us the information. But
Yeah, it's just so seems quite unusual.
Right, you gotta
And
wonder
I'll
if
tell
it's
you,
just done a
you
long
can
time
find
ago
somebody
and
who
never
wants to do
changed.
something.
That's what it sounds
Right.
like, because
You know,
Laura's
it's probably
not
nobody,
familiar with it.
you know, it's like,
Where.
Some person.
we can never get anybody to
Yeah.
do something, so then maybe if somebody said, okay, I'll do it, you know.
Well, oddly, we have been asked about it. It's, you know,
Yeah, that's-
and there hasn't been anyone
Right, it's
appointed
like
since
right
that time, so it seems odd that there was a person.
And there was a person
And
and we're not informed.
Yeah.
Because we were being asked to have one of our members step forward to do that.
Yeah.
So the circumstances seem very
Well,
unusual.
There's a lady named Elaine that's been writing stuff, but I don't know that she's.
all right, she's got very mobile.
Okay.
So
So we gotta recognize the name even though you guys.
Laura said, while I thought the mayor's appointment was open, it is not. Joan Esserman is in that role right now. However, in consulting with the Webster Groves Historical Society President Sean Green about this, we came upon the idea of an ex officio appointment representing the HPC. And I accepted.
So you're in.
So I'm in.
Okay.
So does anybody know who Joan Esserman is?
person.
I don't know the sounding name, but it was.
Just Joan live. I don't know who she is.
Laura.
I wonder if it's a liaison for the council, maybe for the society, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that they're speaking of that as a liaison between these
This
two
board, right,
organizations.
It's just the
Right.
mayor's appointment.
right, to
And
that
I guess
board,
Laura must not have done it if she wasn't aware of it. It must have been,
right.
Jerry Welch, maybe.
I left my phone in the car, I just text.
Anyway, you
Okay,
know, well, there we are.
that works, that you're the,
Yeah. So, yeah, I accept it.
whatever.
Good thing.
Thank you, Sue.
We'll look at it like you're just the regular liaison.
Hey, bring a bottle of wine.
That's good.
Something to tell you.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, she said this is one of those times that she must ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
While I thought that the mayor's appointment was open, it is not. Jane Esserman is in that role right now. However, in consulting with the Webster Groves Historical Society, President Sean Green about this, we came up with the idea of an ex officio appointment representing the HPC. Sue, if you're willing, we would love to have you fill that role. So and so on this, I get they're not talking about a liaison position. That's why we haven't heard anything from them. They're saying that there was a position appointment, just like, the appointments that we make on a lot of the different commissions and boards and everything. There wasn't an open role.
Okay, we're good.
But it's still confusing.
Yes.
Because it's like, because when I read it, I'm like, okay, so we're not talking about we're not talking about the same two things.
Right.
That's
Don't
what it
confuse
doesn't
us
seem like
anymore.
to me.
Yeah. No,
We don't need any word.
right, yeah, and
Now, when is July meeting?
8.
Okay. Well, it works.
Has the budget been approved by city council?
So, yeah.
I don't think so. I think. it
no,
was-
we're voting on that on the next meeting.
Oh, next meeting.
Next week.
Okay. Well, and that's the same as it was before then. I assume there's been no changes to what we tried.
No, and then, so I think it's fine. I think we're gonna end up with the 12 on there.
Okay.
Well, and it's just that we're holding the plaques till we get the budget, and so when I'm going to come to a meeting, I'm like, okay, we're waiting.
And actually, it hasn't come up in the meeting again, so I'm like, because on the last meeting when we talked, they had signed off and said, okay, well, 1,800's fine. And then the question came up. And so I said, well, I'll clarify that. Well, the conversation hasn't come up again, and I'm not bringing it up. There wasn't. It's approved for 18, you get 18, and see, I can do that. If not, worst case, you get 12.
Okay, that's true. Yeah,
You know.
that's not bad.
Exactly. And then also there was, fine, I think, you and Tiara worked together to talk about the link that we're gonna take care of to be able to have the link on the website for the historical properties with historical.
And then
Significance.
here's product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, John, I guess the next thing would be to you were talking about creating the actual file that goes on the Secretary of State's. So, I was trying to figure out the easiest way to get those particular nomination packets to you. I'm thinking that because it's going to require manual research and they're in all different places. Maybe I'm just thinking out loud. If I could come by the library, make an appointment and meet with you, and maybe we could look at it together and figure out the best way to accomplish it now that we have the
Right,
official.
yeah, we
okay.
can find the PDFs
Yeah,
on the city's website and then just put them onto my computer
yeah,
and then then I can talk to Missouri Digital Heritage again about setting up to get up for it. Yeah.
and because of the way the city's website is set up, like a lot of those are still available in that document center, but then some are archived. So I think my thought would be, let's just start with the most readily available and get those going. And then as we get into the ones that require more research, we can kind of address those. Can we just keep adding things or uploading
Oh,
things?
sure.
Or-
Yeah. We
Okay.
can, they don't have to all be uploaded at once.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Anything on the document center I can download as a file, so that it would be easier to navigate than the website, because you can just go click into it. I just don't know where exactly I'm looking for what.
I was looking at it today and like when you go into the HPC's stuff,
Yeah.
there's all of our agendas and minutes and everything are in there. But yeah, I can show you, but like just scrolling through, looking at the titles, some of them actually say like, public hearing packet for, and that's, those public hearing packets are what have the documentation in them.
Okay.
So, it's just a matter of like scrolling through there and finding this stuff. And I think it would probably be easiest for, somebody who's aware of what we've done and has the list to just go, okay, here's this one check, here's this one check.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then get them to John so he can start creating his file to upload when the time comes.
Yeah, like I said, to set something up. There's sort of an intermediary software that we use. And just be a matter of structuring that, and then once we have the PDFs, it's just uploading. It's really doesn't take a lot of time.
Okay, just be sure, let me know what exactly you would, if there's anything that you would like to make it easier, let me know. And then, in terms of where we would put it, it would just be a link on the Historic Preservation Commission landing page.
Put it somewhere.
That's right.
It's somewhere else.
Yeah. So, and we gotta, the approval comes up to do that.
Yay. So that sounds good. Well, I'll start kind of looking at things and, we'll confer and figure out the easiest way to get them to you and.
Yeah, if you want to come
work
by
on inspection.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, you can, yeah, we can set up a time, you can come by, and we can
Yeah.
talk about it.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah.
And then once you kind of get going, you can decide how much help, you need more help.
Yeah.
or what.
That would be good, because I think, we can start with the easiest stuff first, and then the stuff that's not so easy, it may be time to get all hands on deck if it starts getting not so easy. But we'll just get started to see what it's gonna take.
Sounds good.
And, as far as way down the line would be, way down the line would be looking at any hard copies that might be around that were never digitized, but that's.
Do they find you guys like the spot in the corner of the building? Is that like an open store? Never mind. Find them a spot.
Yeah, I can find you a spot, so.
Oh, yeah, well, that would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, that
yeah,
might be
yeah,
necessary, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then, it looks like that's last thing. Does anybody have anything else?
I'm just thinking on this 115.
Orchard.
Which has been taken.
Which has been tabled. So as a matter of like process, I guess. If it's true that an amendment would have to be submitted by the architect and we don't have any say in creating an amendment, like we can't create things that we want. It all would have to come from the architect, which was kind of suggested and kind of makes sense. If that's the case, can we just tell them so that next meeting he can be ready with what he wants to do?
Well, I think we need to verify.
We need to verify.
I know there's a definite,
Right.
Yes.
By the time they do this, it could be a different architect. I mean, we even going into that, it's.
Yeah, I think we just need to, the first step is to verify what we can and can't do before we try to start
Logistics.
giving people
Right.
direction based on something that might not be correct.
We don't even know what we
Yeah.
want to do. Right, yeah, or what can be.
So I think it's best to just let the process unfold because we need verification of what we're going to do before we start as a commission saying we need or want this from y'all.
Yeah, and then when I reach out to attorney and my director, I will do all the notifications that they will ask me to do.
And quite honestly, I was really thinking of something much more simple than what this neighbor was talking about. I was thinking of like, can we mention, because they are demolishing an existing structure that has windows of this proportion on every side, could we say we'd like to see some windows that look like those
Yeah, they-
on the new building?
Coordinate.
Or something like that, rather than simply like, completely saying your building must be here and no pool within
Right,
how
yeah.
many feet.
That's what
Well, we
I'm
can do all that. That's
And it
what
gotta look like
I-
the old building,
Yeah.
Right,
I don't think
or it
we
has
gotta
to
do
look just like it. I was thinking more like have a nod to this building and give them some things that we would like to see, rather than their notion of it nod to this building as having vinyl siding, so.
She was saying
So-
she was upset about a pool going in there. Now she decided that you were saying, right, she's like, oh, no, I don't feel so bad. Because I thought they were gonna put a pool next to me. They could do anything between now and then, lady. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah,
I don't know
Well,
what
that's
we have
one
to
of the-
say about.
I was gonna say, we don't,
No,
we're
it's not
we're
a-
on that, so.
And also too, that's why I was curious about what the original exterior material on the garage was, because
Right.
that might be something that we could say, okay,
Use
I
this
could
material.
To see if I can dig more into that. My suspicion is the house next to hers. That lot, you can see it actually, on the aerial that we had up, that the garage sort of looks like it crosses over the boundary line.
That's way
Don't
back.
trust them,
Yeah.
do not trust
That
them.
is also-
Do not
Well, I
trust
know,
them.
but I mean, it's right up against
She
it,
said
and
she
that
was
whole
on the
block
east
would have
side.
been re-subdivided, and I really have a feeling it's connected to that house next to hers.
Yeah,
That it's carriage house, because that there were no other houses on Oakwood that had been built before 1909, but houses along Rosemont, which actually had a different street name too, had been built in the 1890s. And yeah, so I mean, I could see what I can, what I can find on that. Because
even how it was divided, it could have just been changed around how it was divided. Who knows?
Right.
I was told where my house is, there was a tennis court back in there somewhere, that we all feel a little like, so where exactly was that?
Right.
Like, what? It wasn't on an individual's property because there's not enough room. So,
Well, I mean, the
Right.
county areas go back to 1936.
So, yeah.
You can look at it.
you have no idea what,
Yeah, you can look at an aerial from, the clearest one I've seen is 1955 that they have, but, you can see what's on their property.
okay. So, yeah, so I could ask the attorney, like, what does that mean? Is there something, can we make some sort of conditions? Is actually what I was saying, adding conditions to our demolition approval.
Yeah.
And obviously they need to be within reason.
Yeah, well, we can map out exactly what that is.
Yeah, if he says, no, you can't, then no, you can't. If we can, then we also are not, when you say that about the architect's plans, we aren't the ARB. So that is,
Right.
we're not gonna be able to go with, we approve the plans and don't approve the plans, really, like, that's gonna go through a whole nother process. So we could say, so I'm thinking more like, it's have to be written words of like, that have this material or that, something like that, that the ARB can then look at it and say, okay, you also have this condition, so is it there?
And what is amendment saying? Because that's what the thing says, approve, deny, or approve with amendment.
And that's what,
Yes,
it's-
that's
maybe,
what-
maybe that's
that's
an
the
amendment.
question.
That's so clarification on what that means.
We're gonna amend it and say demolition using whatever.
Right. And as far as the material, I'd be for exterior material, I'd be for just like picking under a chunk of that crunchy old vinyl and there is your verification. Yeah.
Send her.
Right.
Not that they didn't look exactly like a house, so many of them today look exactly like their little versions, gigantic garage, little version,
Yeah.
but that's not really what they look like, they kind of had a little more simple.
Utilitarian.
And that's probably circus.
Or belong to another house and look like that house. Yeah.
All right, Jim.
Oh, should we have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Okay, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.